hell happened?
A bomb, I think.
A police car gets flipped over on the street. Monsters fall from the sky alongside meteors. These creatures have the best hearing in the universe. Their ears are connected to 1 million neurons straight to their brains, allowing them to hear every little sound within a 6.2-mile radius. The monsters are incredibly brutal, with skin that is nearly impervious to any weapons. They begin hunting humans, and within just a few months, 90% of the human population is wiped out. Lee's family hides out in the countryside, too scared to make a sound, just to survive. Yet there are still monsters lurking nearby. During a trip to a small town for supplies, their youngest son, Bo, accidentally makes a noise with his toy plane and is killed by a monster. Then, in a desperate bid to save his 2 kids, Lee screams to draw the monsters away, sacrificing himself in the process. Though Reagan discovers that using a hearing aid to emit infrasound can weaken the monsters and allow them to fight back, it's too late for their home. Now Evelyn has to take the kids and leave, but even worse dangers lie ahead. Don't make a sound, otherwise the monsters will find you. The family arrives at an abandoned factory. As Evelyn crosses the fence, she accidentally triggers a mechanism, causing bottles tied with ropes to shake violently. Startled, everyone takes off running. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure in the distance watches them through a sniper scope. If they attract the monsters, he will pull the trigger immediately. Suddenly, her son Marcus steps into a bear trap. His scream instantly attracts a monster. The creature crashes through the fence and lunges at them. In that critical moment, Reagan quickly connects the hearing aid to a speaker. Under the influence of the infrasound, the monster howls in pain, unable to stop. Evelyn stands up, raises her gun, chambers around, and fires, blowing the monster's head off. Watching the monster falls, the mysterious figure in the distance can hardly believe his eyes. A seemingly weak woman has just killed a monster, but the gunshot will soon attract more creatures. Evelyn and the kids keep running. Just as they enter the factory, someone suddenly covers Evelyn's mouth. The mysterious figure gestures for her to stay silent. Don't make a sound. Behind Evelyn, the monster climbs up the wall and enters the factory. The mysterious figure helps Evelyn carry the kids as they start to maneuver carefully. They finally leap into the basement, hiding in a specially sealed chamber that resembles an oversized boiler. They think they're safe now, but the real danger is still ahead. It turns out that the mysterious figure who saved them is their old friend Emmett. While the boiler might block sound, it doesn't have enough oxygen, and they need to open the door to breathe every so often. Marcus hears a radio broadcast and discovers that one channel is playing music. Emmett explains that the music has been playing for 4 months, but it's just noise, leading them nowhere. That night, Reagan cracks the code hidden in the music, revealing a coordinate point on a nearby island. She hatches a plan to save the world, using the broadcast to transmit the infrasound from her hearing aid to the whole planet, giving humanity a fighting chance against the monsters. But Marcus argues, saying heading to the island is too risky. Yet come morning, Reagan's had enough of waiting. She quietly grabs the gear and slips out. In the future, humanity must walk barefoot or risk their lives. Reagan has never dared to wear shoes. Her feet are battered and bruised, leaving a trail of blood on the tracks. She approaches an abandoned train and spots a battered first aid kit. But as she reaches for it, she accidentally touches a corpse. Startled, Reagan makes a sound. Just as she is about to leave, a monster suddenly steps into the train car. With no other choice, she prepares to confront it head-on. Reagan grabs the speaker, emitting infrasound, then raises her gun, ready to shoot. It's a tough situation for her. One hand clutching the speaker, the other trembling as she aims her gun. As she pulls the trigger, the bullet barely grazes the monster. It continues to crawl toward her, and just as she prepares to take a second shot, the gun jams. With the monster closing in, urgency hits her like a freight train. In a critical moment, a bullet flies in from behind and takes down the monster. It's Emmett who arrives just in time to save her. He wants to take Reagan home, but she responds, "Home? Which home? Do I even have a place to go anymore?" He's left speechless. Reagan then invites Emmett to join her on the journey to the island. He hesitates at first, but eventually nods in agreement. As they make their way to the dock, they spot a little girl huddled on the ground, tears streaming down her face, looking utterly terrified. "Don't be too kind." Emmett steps forward to comfort the little girl. But in the next moment, she suddenly looks up, her small hands tightening a rope around his neck. The other end is tied to a pile of bottles, and Emmett freezes, not daring to make a move. Suddenly, a large group of survivors appears, encircling Emmett and Reagan. But they're not good people. The leader, Marina Mann, steps forward and sizes up Emmett. Marina Mann's eyes flicker to Reagan, taking in her beauty, and they plot to take advantage of her. Emmett quickly gestures for Reagan to look for an opportunity to jump into the sea. Then, without warning, he lunges at Marina Mann, seizing him hostage and shouting at the top of his lungs. Instantly, he draws the monster's attention, and the bad guys find themselves face to face with the creature, sealing their fate. Emmett ties Marina Mann to a post and plunges a knife into his thigh. Marina Mann's screams pierce the air, drawing the monster's attention. Emmett dives into the sea, but soon finds himself choking on the rope. The creature finishes off Marina Mann on the shore, and only then does Emmett manage to surface again. When he looks around, he sees that the bad guys have been dealt with. Hearing Emmett splashing in the water, the monster leaps in after him. After a brief struggle in the waves, it goes still. The monster that can't be harmed by weapons can't swim either. It charges onto the yacht, but won't jump into the water, leaving the yacht drifting out to sea. Reagan pulls Emmett onto the boat, and he's even protecting the hearing aid. Pretty impressive. Meanwhile, Evelyn heads out to find oxygen tanks and antibiotics, leaving Marcus to take care of his little brother. But Marcus has always been scared. He can't even shout in front of a waterfall. He begs his mom not to go and to stay with him, but Evelyn chooses to go for the greater good. Unable to resist, Marcus sneaks out to investigate. Spotting Emmett's wife's lifeless body sends him into a panic. He trips, making a noise that catches the monster's attention. As the creature approaches, Marcus grabs his brother and hides in the big boiler. In his frantic state, he inadvertently locks the door. Soon he finds it hard to breathe. They're forced to take turns with the dwindling oxygen tank, but there's barely enough for both of them. Marcus decides to give the last of the oxygen to his brother, collapsing from lack of air. Just when all hope seems lost, Evelyn returns, sees the damaged entrance, and immediately thinks of a plan. Evelyn places the oxygen tank on the oil and shoots to attract the monster. The monster walks into the trap, and Evelyn blasts the oxygen tank, igniting a fire that engulfs it. But the monster isn't afraid of flames. It charges through the fire towards Evelyn. Just when it looks dire, the flames trigger the sprinkler system. The sound of rushing water disorients the monster, making it lose track of Evelyn's position. With careful stealth, she sneaks around the creature, opens the big boiler, and rescues the unconscious Marcus and the baby. Meanwhile, Emmett and Reagan finally spot the island. As expected, it seems free of monsters. The islanders live in peace, and their leader, Rock, informs Emmett that 12 boats were at the dock, but everyone rushed aboard, attracting a horde of monsters. In the end, only 2 boats made it here. Since the monsters can't swim, the island feels safe. Just when they think they can finally relax, the monster drifting in the sea arrives at the island. The monster is starving and starts brutally attacking the island's residents. Leader Rock stashes the kids in a cupboard, hoping that if everyone else dies, they'll be like Adam and Eve. He then drives Emmett and Reagan around, honking the horn to lure the monster away from the camp. The creature charges, tearing the car roof apart with its claws. Rock floors the gas pedal, finally shaking the monster off. But once they hit the broadcast station, he wants to head back to save his family, just as he reaches the door. Emmett and Reagan are pinned down in the broadcast station, crouched behind equipment, too scared to even breathe. Reagan spots the studio sign, and they quietly move toward the door, only to find the monster waiting right there. Is their last hope really blocked like this? Meanwhile, Evelyn bravely cracks open the sealed chamber door, relieved to find nothing outside. She picks up the bag on the ground, but suddenly the monster crawls in through the broken pipe. Evelyn quickly jumps back into the sealed chamber, but the monster is lightning fast. It charges in, flipping the boiler door open and trapping Evelyn and her son in a tight spot. Back with Emmett and Reagan, they slowly make their way into the broadcast studio. The monster strains its ears, searching the area. Between it and Reagan is just a glass door. Reagan moves more cautiously with each step, but as she reaches for the final door, the monster immediately crashes through the glass, charging at Reagan. In a split second, Emmett jumps out to block the beast, but he's no match for its ferocity. The monster grabs his leg, leaving a bloody mess. Despite the pain, Emmett forces himself to close the door, positioning his body in front of Reagan. As the monster inches closer to Emmett, Reagan makes a desperate move. She connects the hearing aid to the broadcast system, activating the sound waves. The monster lets out a painful roar, Over with Evelyn, things are even more dire. The monster slashes her leg with its claws. Just when all hope seems lost, the sound waves from the broadcast blast through the air. As the monster suddenly backs off, Marcus's eyes fill with determination. The boy who once was scared and weak now stands resolute, ready to protect his mother. He raises the radio and steps forward, pushing the monster into a corner. In one swift motion, he grabs the handgun from the table. Meanwhile, in the broadcast studio, Reagan grabs a weapon and steps up to the monster, shooting it directly. At the same time, her brother fires his gun. Both monsters go down in a violent crash. A tear of gratitude slips down Evelyn's cheek as she watches Reagan and Marcus. Both have grown up, embodying their father's brave spirit. But even as they stand victorious, the battle between humans and monsters is just beginning. This film is A Quiet Place Part 2. It continues the gripping style of the first movie, offering an exhilarating post-apocalyptic story set against a hauntingly silent backdrop. That's all for today. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. See you next time. Bye-bye.